14 weeks to Madiera, and another update back in the hyperbaric oxygen chamber. And this is the final update from Operation Oxford. So we have finally completed our first decathlon in the Horsepath Athletics Club over in Oxfordshire, just outside Oxford. And I didn't do any more updates after that that one I did after the first event. So how did it go? We were going in aiming for 4,500 points. This was my target for the last 3 months, and that would be well in excess of the 4,000 points. That is the first level of the English Athletics 3D standard, 4,000, the Power of 10 target 100, and also the local university, the University of East Anglia's entry-level scholarship award. So how did we do? Ultimately, I didn't meet that 4,500 mark. I didn't even meet the 4,000 mark. It was 3,800, a bit higher. I'm going to check the final result, but I've calculated it to be just over 3,800. So yeah, definitely disappointed. Goals wise, I need to own that was the goal, and we didn't make it. With the winter season, we focused on sprints initially and trying out multi-events. I was doing well in the sprints, not quite back where I was, but working towards that. Then for 3 months we focused on 50% decathlon, 50% sprints, and I didn't quite get the sprint standard that I was looking for. Therefore I said, well, this is an indication to focus on the decathlon, because I calculated my score for the decathlon, for the heptathlon, indoor heptathlon, and that would have been about 3,000, which would be roughly on a par with 4,000 in the decathlon. So notwithstanding the extra events and the added training it's taken to master perhaps the javelin and discus, and then also the added unknown of the 1,500 metres, really that demonstrates a regression in my performance since the winter season. Maybe you could say, well, with these new events you might not look to necessarily improve your performance, but you'd expect some of those things to be conserved. And again, you could say, well, you were only focused on 1 or 2 events before, and now you're focusing on 10, so obviously your performance is going to be distributed across them. But technically speaking, that wasn't true. So I did set personal bests. I set a personal best of 5 metres 26 in the long jump. That was up from 5 metres and 3 centimetres from the indoor season. I set a new personal best in the pole vault of 2 metres and 50, which again was up from a personal best of 2 metres 30 at the end of the indoor season, in the first of the outdoor season, which was a few months back. And of course I set personal best in 1,500 metres of 5 minutes and 54, but having never run that before, that was just getting a mark down. And then finally the javelin, I set a new personal best of 22 metres and 80, but given that my previous personal best was 14 metres something, it was only worth 50 to 100 points in the decathlon in and of itself. You're maybe hoping for personal bests across the board in the decathlon, maybe with the exception of the ones that you've done extensively in the past, especially given the extra time. So yeah, there was some conservation of previous performances. So in the high jump, I jumped 159 with my previous best being 160. So essentially the same. And again, with the discus, I threw like 22.5 metres, so it was within half a metre of previous throws, and all of my throws were just exactly the same spot and exactly the same. So no real progression there. And areas I actually decreased on were So I also conserved my performance on the 100 metres, so it was 12.16, and the previous score from the indoor season was 12.1 hand timed. So yeah, really, yeah, I think that's just frustrating that I didn't manage to improve much. If I'm just trying to get out there and throw some implements and run some races and see what happens, and it's all for the fun of things, and this kind of masters athlete type vibe of turn up and keep yourself fit, then great day out, really successful day out, medals all round, applause all round. But if your goal is to be a national level athlete, of which there were several there yesterday, and I got a feel for who they were and what their performances were, then not that great, because you really want to benchmark in about 4,000 points and build off of that if your national level qualification is going to be the upper 5,000s. So yeah, frustrating to have to go back to the drawing board. Difficult to process that, but also difficult to set new targets going forward, because it's not very motivational for your potential target just to be the same target that you had before. Although that's a sober pill you might need to swallow. Another big question. Sorry, I was starting to talk there about the this oxygen's going to my brain here. It's making me want to go to sleep. I'm quite tired as well. Talking about, it was a good day out, as a masters athlete. I think a big question now is saying, well, this is as good as I really am? This is actually quite an accurate depiction of where my body's at and what I'm capable of and my raw talent, and, let's just kind of hold it here. And I've obviously in previous videos said how I'm backing myself. I think I'm better than this, and there's a bit more analysis still to go, and in this sports analysis pack that I'll be doing in Headspace, we talk about how the analysis is going to be different in the initial couple of hours versus the next day versus the next week, and so on and so forth. But there's a few data points that make me think that I'm better than that performance that we had at the weekend. One of them was the indoor performances that I had back in January, for two reasons. One of them was I ran 7.883, and I took more than a tenth of a second off, like literally a week later or something. That I was better rested. I just felt better, and I went out and without really any much more training ran faster. So there is a certain variability that's there, and I definitely think I was quite tired going into it. I think I was not quite on form. So I think some of that was just not being fully rested the week before. So I think my rest regime was pretty good, but whatever it was, I don't think I was quite there. Another thing was that those actual performances themselves were quite good in the winter. So 7.73 in the 100 metres would equate to, you can look these up on the performance tables of what would equate to what level, but yeah, that would equate to about an 11, or should equate to about an 11.75 100 metre, and I ran 12.1. So adjusting for the extra 30 metres and the extra 6 months, really that's a kind of a loss of performance. And sure, there was a really strong headwind, but again, you would have hoped that would have been better conserved. So that's one data point, is the variability. I might be able to, theoretically go out 2 weeks' time and just do the exact same with no more training and just perform better just by being more informed. Second thing was previous performance in the 100. The other third thing is training performance. So, okay, I jumped 2 metres 50 in the pole vault, but I was jumping 2 metres 50 in training on a Tuesday night after a day's work. So it's not like I was just really tired at that point in the competition. I can do a whole day in theatre and still go out and jump 2 metres 50. So you'd really hope that would be higher. similarly in the shot put, bad performance this weekend with only 8 metres 60. I've thrown 986 in competition, I've thrown 10 metres in training, so that's a data point. And I think the training performance would be true for pole vault, it'd be true for the shot put, it'd be true for the discus, not the javelin, I threw further in competition, but there's 3 events there. A third data point that I think I should potentially do better is just the lack of training I've had in some areas. So the hurdles I think I've done between a 1-to-1 and a 1.5-to-1 ratio of training sessions to hurdle sessions. Training sessions and hurdles to competitions and hurdles over the last 6 months. So I've done 4 hurdles competitions now, and yeah, in terms of actually training in the hurdles, I can think 4 out-and-out hurdle sessions where I've just went and trained hurdles, and then maybe another 2 to 4 where I've done some kind of hurdle drills as part of something bigger. Really having not trained. And then the next one would have been actually some of the conditions there as well. It was really windy. There was a 2.3 metre headwind in the 100 metres. The 400 was really grim. I think that was part of the reason I was so bad in that. It was over a minute to get around the track. For me, anyway. And it was like windy and rainy, and I just wonder if in better conditions it might just do a bit better. So those are some potential data points that are genuine, that are objective, that I think I can do well. So obviously within decathlon you need to account for some variability, that your performance isn't going to be great in all of them. You need to have a couple of bad events. You also need to have some accounting for things not going so well on the day, including the weather and things like that. So I don't think I can look at all the events and say, let's just pick all the best of all the different events, add them up, and that should be my score. I think you should really be able to say that for about 6 of the 10, and then maybe a couple you're just not going to improve on because you're at your limit, and then maybe a couple you're going to do worse on. So that's where we're at. It's a real time to look hard at Madiera and the aim here, and let's remind ourselves I want to be a national level athlete. That desire hasn't changed. I want to break new ground and set new personal best, but get to a higher level than I had before. Obviously, if I do new events, I'll get to a new level, but I want to be a better all-round athlete than I was before. And one of the really easy ways to do that is to look at the England Athletics TV awards scheme. So they just have tables of, you go from this time to this time, this time to this time, and that's your progression, and you're going down, and it starts with something easy, and then it finishes really quite hard, and then below that you're really kind of elite level. But the really good thing is you can kind of equate where you would expect, if you're an outstanding high jumper or a mediocre long jumper, you can compare and say, actually I'm at this level in high jump, at this level in long jump, and that really helps. So that's something I'm going to do, is to look at, what level was I on 6 years ago when I was reaching my personal best in the sprint, and if I'm focusing on decathlon now, let's try and get to that level on decathlon. So it might not be crazy times, but that's going to give me an indication if I'm really back to my best, if I'm really back from this long-term injury. I'm trying to get some of this oxygen out of my nose here. Yeah, I kind of look like something from June. So that's a goal. The second goal is to compete at a national level, to be that athlete. It was just really cool listening to some of the guys there that were talking. I'll talk more about the culture and stuff, and talking about, we've got a couple of national level athletes in the squad that we're training with, and there's that sort of feeling that sort of criteria. And yeah, I'd like to be that. And then, yeah, the third thing about this Madiera trip would be to perform at an international level, and to maybe get on a podium or something like that. That's sort of, those are the markers of a successful athlete. And I don't know exactly what's going to happen with Madiera, but I want to feel that rush of winning in some way, that I've just not felt. So, tough day at the office, first decathlon in the bag, got through without injury, big bonus. Some really good wee moments, like Sammy, the guy that I met from the Southern Athletics League, is currently the number one in the UK. Watching me ball, and he was like, "Yeah, you can go over 3 metres. I can see that. You're just wee things that are letting you down." Just the easy way that I could that I got there with the long jump. And again, just getting a wee bit of feedback from the sidelines from the girls saying, "You got a wee bit more on the board. You can do better there." Pole vault, really got into the mental flow in the pole vault really, really well. I managed the pole vault well, and I think that competition mind was really coming well. And I clung on to some performances as well with the 100 metres of the high jump. There was a couple of kind of clutch moments, and I was just like, no, let's just knuckle down here and make sure and get a good performance. So plenty to build off of. It's now going into 60 minutes, so I'm going to cut it short here. But onwards and upwards, and I'll update later in the week when I've had more time to think.